Morning, Alex. We got AMB1A13 and Joy. Nice to see you. I have an odd screen that is. See if it helps to close participants. No, all my chiclets are like, I see everybody's chins. I see Alex's eyes. And I see AMB1A13, who looks like a human, but sounds like a robot. Good morning.
Hopefully I should sound like a human too.
There you go. You sound like a human. You look like a human, but your name sounds like a transformer.
Sorry, it's done it as my thing. It's Angie Bywater. I don't know why. I was just trying to change it, but we'll have to see.
We'll give everybody a few minutes. Usually I'm the one that's late coming from another meeting, but today I'm spot on. Margaret, I can't remember, is Embry available today or not? You're on mute.
I think she's available. Yeah, I don't remember either.
Yeah, I didn't remember it. No.
That's exactly where I am. I don't remember a no.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, is this our third year? Yeah, third. Fourth? Doesn't seem like it'd be 4 years.
21, 22, 23,
24.
24. Oh my God. Yeah, we are old. Woo!
Old. We're not even initiative anymore. We're program. Ah, there's it. Those of you, I don't know if anybody's joining for the first time yet, but we did take a summer hiatus. So if you feel like this is your first meeting, it'll feel like all of our first meeting for the fall of 2024 as well.
I'm gonna see if I can stick the moose photo in the chat.
Oh.
It's just.
Are you in the office today, Max? I shouldn't call you Max. Margaret?
I am, yeah. To be honest, it's partly because I mean, I do go into the office, but today it was partly because I had a doctor appointment nearby.
Right.
So I was like, well, I can't get back home. I'll just go to the office.
I went on Monday for the same reason. But we're kicked out of our offices now. It's interesting. We're hoteling. You have to be in the office 3 days a week to keep your cubicle space. I'm admiring how your cubicle space is set up. Yeah, and I just refuse to go in 3 days a week. But it's funny, I go in on Fridays, nobody's there. Monday, nobody was there either. So it must be a very busy place, middle of the week.
It's Wednesday and I've seen one person on the floor.
Isn't that interesting? Okay. Well, they're watching us badge in, so I don't know. Somebody cares about where we are. All right, so I can't, I mean, I really have this odd chiclet thing where I'm seeing my chin, most of your guys' eyes. I see Embry's chin. Maybe I can switch it so I can see my eyes. Better view. Oh, here we go. So this is.
Couldn't seem to put it in the chat, but it's built, and there's some people who were stuck waiting for the moose to go away. I actually didn't notice them when I first saw the photograph, but I was so excited I forwarded it to my kids, and so one of them was like, "Hey, wait, is there a person in there?" And I was like, "What? Oh, there is." And then I checked in with the NREL staff, and they said that Allie and Ron were both in the shed wiring the equipment while the visitors wandered about, and they stayed inside while being serenaded by the sounds of chomping for a solid 30 minutes.
How many came to explore?
Let's pull up the other photograph.
I'm asking because there's an elk field up in North Bend, and there can be hundreds of them that come in to graze at a big open field.
I don't think moose are quite that much of a
You know what?
pack.
It's elk. It's elk up in North Bend.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I think it might be a mom and some teens equivalents, maybe.
Nice. All right. So we have 7 people. Good morning, Simone. See that you've joined. What do you want to do? Fearless leaders, Margaret and Embry? You want to wait a few minutes? Have you gotten RSVPs? I haven't seen much email traffic about the meeting.
I just got an IRPIC note to remind us that we had this meeting. So I think that
I sent out an agenda. I sent it out a little early, but did that not go through? I got it.
Oh, through the IRPIC? I got a
Yeah.
IRPIC reminder, I feel like yesterday about the meeting. An email.
Huh. Yeah, on the 7th, I was very organized. I sent out a draft agenda. So I could share that. Here, I'll forward it to you again. Well, yeah, I don't think I can forward it to the whole group without copying and pasting, and that's annoying. Okay, so there.
Mention. So Joy speaking. I am here because Robin is extremely busy with another project he's on. But he said he does want to carry on with being involved in the group. Wants to know how things, I haven't looked at the agenda, I haven't seen the agenda, but you know, how things are going to be taken forward for the next NATO deadline, which he thinks may be February 25. And that he does want to contribute, he does want to be involved, but is extremely busy at the moment. So he doesn't want to take a lead as such, but he does still want to be actively involved.
Okay. Is there a way for you to describe what the follow-up activities are? I have that as number 1 on the agenda, which apparently no one but me got.
Right. I mean, we did. They were all put into different groups, weren't we, from the meeting in Fairbanks? And I don't know whether there was a lead on each group. I'd have to look it up. I will have it here on my computer.
the lead is us, Joy. The lead is Margaret and me on
Right.
NATO follow-up.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Right. So
Okay.
he just wanted a bit of feedback about if we were going to how it was going to be taken forward, given that deadline that he thought was February 25. Yeah.
Emery, do you have a sense? Because I have no idea.
No, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
dear.
I've been, no, but it's okay. It's okay.
He had contacted David, who's at Aberdeen University this week, just to see if his group had got together and if anything had been taken forward. I can't remember which group David was in, but he said nothing had gone on with the group that he was in.
Okay. Okay.
So is the deadline for February 25th, is that to put together meeting 2 that is similar to the meeting that you held last?
No, so this would be, so if I remember correctly, so the workshop that we had was basically to establish to NATO that we had a functional working group that was capable of delivering research projects, and that it was kind of the success of that project, the success of that grant, and the outcomes of that grant would feed into a larger proposal for a larger project, right? So it's going to be something like we had a small group we had that small workshop. And now I'm looking here, and I think it could likely feed into the multi-year project R&D grants. Those budgets are between 250,000 and 400,000 euros. And that's what I think that we would target. Now, I will research this and figure out if we think that we can pull something together by February, because I'm not sure. Right, it would
Right,
be
this would be like a follow-up to the pilot project that is ongoing now, seeing the results,
Correct.
scaling up,
Correct.
picking locations, those kind of ideas, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any ideas as to what sort of sector to focus on? Because if he had contacted David, that I think it's David DePelo, isn't it? He's it it could be on anything. You could be on Digestate or from the, in other words, it's kind of follow on from what you're doing.
Yeah, it would be follow on from what we're doing. I mean, what comes to mind is using the results of the current Fairbanks pilot to scale up one of the selected digesters into a more robust construction and pilot project with real poop. That would be where I think I would head next, right? Would be like, all right, we did it in a 50-gallon drum, right? Now let's actually see if we could build something that is deployable in the field, right? And we would have to, it would be a scale up. We have to do this real slowly, I think, right? Again, like, because of the issues with not wanting to have another like failure.
Yeah.
Right.
Scale it up in a location, not a village, not a town, not a.
No, still not a village.
But
I
scale it up somewhere where we have access to it and we're running it and monitoring it. Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Margaret, does that sound reasonable? Again, we're culling, right? Because we have these 3 digesters out at NREL with different heating mechanisms. And we would take the most successful of those and cull it out of that and then develop that into a larger, more robust evaluation. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that's exactly what I have in my the plan for our research project. Yeah. Alex, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. That makes sense to me. Our focus here has always been on sanitation. I've been sort of listening in to, with an eye to livestock manure. The idea being that if a design works in a cold climate, it should work for whatever we're putting into it. And that's where I'm interested. So whatever we capture from with especially as we're doing, the thermal performance and ability to get through the winter of this digester is going to be really helpful in modeling thermally anything that we're going to do. However, I think scaling, I also think, and I'm just going to ask as a friendly amendment, that we also, maybe it's also scaling or taking what we learned here and applying it to maybe a more thermally efficient design that would still meet the small sanitation focus. And what I mean is we had a fair amount of discussion when we were going through this design and people kind of saying, well, could it be sort of the bag digester idea with a greenhouse? And I'm still going to have to do that at some point here in Vermont. And so I guess I'll shut up and say, is that a possibility? And I will, I've been talking about this for a long time and haven't been able to get my project off the ground. So I guess I'll blame myself and say, if you can do it, great. If not, I'll come back to you and tell you how we did it. So that's what I'm hoping could maybe be some work in the next iteration, a scaling up that looks like a bag digester.
Well, depending on the budget, I mean, we could, I don't want to overcommit and draw up some sort of proposal that is, that seems too far-fetched for a reviewer to agree to. But depending on the budget, would it make sense? We could also say, look, we're going to do this in Alaska, and then we're going to partially support your bag digester in Vermont and do a comparison of the two. Would that I mean, that might be stretching us too thin, and it would put a lot of the burden on you, Alex, for that part of the proposal development and drafting
Sure.
and demonstration of viability in Vermont. But the thing that I'm now I'm totally in the weeds is that, like, you know, if we want to scale this up and we want to deploy it at a facility that we're still monitoring, at this point, I think that we would want to monitor it with actual poopy, and that is going to eliminate NREL from the facility, right? Unless they get a BL2 lab, et cetera, right, Margaret? If we try to digest, you know, wastewater solids, are we going to be in territory that NREL is not going to be able to support?
I mean, I feel like there's a evolution of understanding and comfort there, and both EPA as the regulator of poop and Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation as a regulator of poop have joined together to say you really don't need to overcomplicate the management of poop. You can treat it like you do the on-site bathrooms. So I would say it's not out of the question. It was not immediately enthusiastically agreed to, but I think that, you know, comfort can evolve over time. But it also makes sense to have, I mean, in my, you know, diagram for EPA sort of research planning, I had sort of marked out, based on information from this group, the community of Bethel as sort of a next step. Now, I don't know who would want it in Bethel exactly, but sort of taking it to taking what seems to work, if we have something that works here, to a community. But you know, we can move that stage around. We can not do Bethel.
I have just found an email from the person at NATO, because Robin was asked for some final comments, so I can read it out. So, because the final payment hasn't been made yet to Simone, just because he wanted further information. So
I asked about that, so thank you.
Yeah, she is going to get on with it. I sent over all payment details again. She did have them, but
yes,
she was,
I can speak to it as well if this is time for me to.
There you go. But I can read it. So the email is from Richard Bruin, who I know, Simone, you've had contact with as well recently. But in his email to Robin, which he replied back to, he has reviewed the report on the website with great interest, delighted that the event was a success. So he would really appreciate to hear some further detail regarding potential next steps. He's interested in exploring the utility of testing and evaluating such technologies in a deployed environment, including on live exercises. It would be great if this could be added to the report with some robust recommendations in terms of how and who will take forward the findings set out in the report. This could include recommendations to NATO or others on science and technology development and exploitation. For instance, he has some good contacts at the US Army Corps of Engineers on the innovative energy technology side, and it would be great to start looking towards how an even more integrated approach to energy and environmental technologies can be achieved. And he's got good connections with engineers in the Irish Defence Forces. So that was his email. Robin has responded and done a final report, but obviously made it fairly generic as to how things are going to be taken forward.
Yes, and so, and I can then speak to where it went from there. So then I then sent that sort of annex, as Robin called it, to the report to Richard. Didn't hear from him for like weeks or months, and so I finally called him last week in Belgium, and he apologized. I guess he was out for quite a bit this summer, and you know, but I had sent him, I mean, I sent it to him multiple times, but he somehow missed all my emails. So he apologized. He was very nice, and so I resent it again, and so I'm sure he has it now, and although they haven't sent the final payment still, which is why we still haven't sent all the travel reimbursements. Just having talked to him, I feel more comfortable that, okay, he's aware. He has, you know, I think what he asked for, and I'm sure we'll eventually get that final payment. So I'm comfortable with that to finally send out the travel reimbursements, and I'm in the process of doing that. And I think that I'm super close to having all the info I need, but I actually need personal addresses from a couple people still, Joy. I need them for you, Robin, Percy, and Pernilla. I think that's, and Margaret. So Margaret and Joy, if you can send me your personal addresses, and then I can, I think, and then I will, sorry, I'm driving right now. I'm doing a school run, so I just pulled over to see who else I need them through. Yeah, I need Joy's, Percy's, Robin's, Margaret's, and Pernilla. That's it.
Okay, I've got those.
Oh, great. Okay, thank
Well, no, I haven't got them. I've got the names down, but what I can do is I can email those people.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you, Joy.
And copy you in, Simone, and then.
Perfect. Thank you. And then, yeah, then I can do the bank transfers to everyone. So sorry for the delay on those. We were just waiting to get that final payment, but I feel comfortable going ahead with it, knowing that eventually we'll get it.
Yeah.
And that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay.
So, Embry, are you positioned to lead the proposal for 2025?
I think I could, yeah. I'm 90, if you could deputy PM it for me, Margaret. I know,
If I could get what?
if you could deputy PM it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I know the EP, I know you can't necessarily, you can't get funds from it, but if you could help with the assembly of it, I think, yeah, I think starting in, I will do that.
Okay, maybe set something up on our
Yeah,
calendars.
exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
So just to wrap up the last, so we've got the addresses. Simone, I'm hearing that the appendix, addendum, annex components that were requested from Richard from NATO have been made to the report, and you and/or Robin have submitted that back. Is that what I'm clear about?
Is correct. Yeah,
Okay.
I submitted what Richard Bruin at NATO asked for. And then I called him, and then he apologized profusely, and I just sent it to him. So he does have it now. I haven't talked since then, and I haven't gotten any other email from him, but you know, was nice to at least place a voice to the name for both of us. And I feel like I can bug him again if we still don't have that final payment, but I'm sure he has what he needs.
So there's kind of three components. There's the report component that feels like that's wrapped up. There's the payment component that's in the chute to be wrapped up. And then now there's this next effort to parlay the success of the meeting / the Digestate program that's set up, which is next on our topic to talk about, into something more, into at least a paper proposal to apply for the 250 to 400 euro funding possibilities. Okay.
Yes, and just to add to that, when I talked to Richard, you know, he made note of that as well. He said, you know, it just seemed like a really great workshop you guys did, and please consider going for the next, you know, fund, you know, that we have other calls out, and, you know, please consider going for those. So, you know, he was encouraging.
All right, thanks. And then also I heard, and I don't know how relevant they'll be to the program, but that Richard has a variety of contacts as well that can think about and tap into as they're appropriate. Okay, so that seems like we've got all the threads starting to weave together here. Anything else from the last year's work that, as I noted, a few of you were on at the top of the hour. Thanks for those of you who've been joining as you're able. This is our first meeting of 2024-25. We meet about 9 months out of the year, take the summers off, and this is kickoff of our 4th year. So some of you have been around since the early days, and thanks all of you who've joined since the very first meetings. As you saw at your conference workshop last spring, right? It's quite a twinkle in the eye of Margaret and Embry back in the day to boots on the ground. Lots of great minds working on a great project. So congratulations to all of you. Do you want to work any more right now, Embry and Margaret, on the setting up who, why, whens for the next NATO funding opportunity, or will you two take it and have kind of a first meeting?
I'm gonna,
and
yeah,
do,
I just
do
sent
some
Margaret,
brainstorming.
I
Okay.
think I just sent Margaret a calendar invite to brainstorm and pull teams. I think we could pull teams together for that, and then
Okay.
out of that brainstorming meeting, we'll send targeted emails to folks. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not going to turn, if anybody wants to raise their hand now.
Yeah.
Then I'm not going to turn anybody back, but we need to kind of get our heads around the effort and the requirements. Nate, where were you at PNCWA? Where were you?
No, actually, I was outside of Los Angeles troubleshooting an industrial food MBR. It goes food, and then, sorry, there's a bunch of things. It ends up with RO and then UV, and it's reused for the factory. So it's, oh my God, there is so much fog coming out of the DAF going to this clarifier. I'll send you a video. It was gross. It's in trouble. Anyway.
Okay.
I got back last night at 11 o'clock. So anyway, glad to be joining you all.
Okay.
Okay, so NATO, okay, all that's wrapped up. Do you want to move on to number 2, ideas for and opportunities for new collaboration, or do you want to move into 3 and talk about what happened over the summer? We started with pictures. Some of you weren't on yet, but Margaret, go ahead and shoot pictures again.
Okay.
Most importantly, moose, but
yes. Where'd the button go? Oh, there we go. There's the button. So my absolute fave picture. Oh no, this is actually my second favorite of the 2. So got some moose. Here's the digester. Very exciting. This is real. It's built. And then the most funny Where's Waldo one is they were still doing a little bit of wiring and decided to stay in the shed doing the wiring until the chomping outside stopped. So Alaskans of all types interested in this project.
Okay. So do you want to share any of the progress, successes, hiccups, problem solving? I'm sure it was a perfect project. No hiccups.
I don't see Annie on. So yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. We had a number of supply chain issues, some of which resulted from, Alaska being sort of at the end of the supply chain for the US, and some of them from continuing bureaucratic. All of a sudden, Max was told he couldn't use his purchasing card for 2 weeks or something. There's no clear reason why. So there were some supply chain issues, and then those kind of bumped it out until it was too late in the year to really have it working. And so the decision was to have it run with water over the winter. And we think that'll still produce some useful information about comparing the different setups to each other and how well the equipment, the infrastructure there holds up to an Alaskan winter. So we feel like it'll be useful. We aren't, it's not a total loss by any means. And we also managed to scrounge up money for local analysis of the fecal coliform when we get to that part, which is great because that we had thought we could overnight air mail the samples to the EPA lab in Cincinnati, which is the closest one that we kind of had sort of in-kind services at. But that turned out to not be, when we talked to the overnight folks, overnight air companies, they said, we really can't guarantee it. We can, hope. And we're like, okay, that's not gonna, hope isn't a really great scientific analysis plan. So then we had to get money for, we were unable to figure out a deal with anyone at University of Alaska Fairbanks, sadly. So we are going to use the one commercial lab in Fairbanks, but that has worked out. Now we don't need it till the spring. We also, I'm not sure if we've met, have we met since we located a pretty good, I think, solid source of inoculum. The Talkeetna community has since 2020, 2021, anaerobic lagoons. And so once they realized that was not some sort of weird spam person, but actually really was talking to them about their poo from the US EPA, they were like, sure, we can give you inoculum. And my colleague in the EPA office in Anchorage is willing to drive to Talkeetna and then drive the poo up to Fairbanks. She's got some bins. We sent her a big funnel. We think it's going to work. So when it gets warm enough in the spring, that'll take place. And we have enough of the materials that people who made it to Fairbanks got to play with, the miso, which is one of the supply chain issues. There weren't any bulk miso paste suppliers in Fairbanks. It was surprising. So we have basically gotten all of the pieces together. We're going to run it with water through the winter. The moose will provide moral support. Oh, Jasmine, were you on when I was showing the pictures of the moose inspecting the digesters? So yeah, that's a lot happened over the summer, and that's kind of where it is. Alex, you got a question?
What is an anaerobic lagoon? Is that a covered lagoon? What is anaerobic about it?
That's a good question. It may be facultative is more of the term. They don't aerate it. They just let it. They just let it be, and because it's Alaska, it also freezes in the winter. So I have a lot of questions about that. So does Max, my EPA Office of Research and Development colleague, and I think even the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation representative, who the folks who made it to Fairbanks got to meet. Eli, son of Frank, has been a great partner for this. I think he also has questions. So there's a bunch of questions about what that means, and it's only been operational since 2021, I think. So yeah, it's a good question. I can send you the write-up that I have about it, but it probably won't answer all your questions since it didn't answer all of the questions that the rest of us have either.
It sounded odd, but it sounds like it's, facultatively, like functionally, it is anaerobic. There's not much going on there, except maybe something anaerobic, but even that, probably not much going on because it's just cold.
Yeah.
Alex is asking, what is cold climate seed?
Well, at the conference, we kind of had this conversation about collecting microbes from thermokarst lakes. And I know that it wasn't a focus of the group because we were just focusing on other things. It's kind of like further down the line. But I have started my master's degree here at KU, and I am applying for an NSF grant to do that. So basically, I'm just going to go collect seeds or microbes from sediment from Thermocast lakes. There's some research that has been done with that with Cordova High School. It was around 2012. And I'm basically going to be replicating that, but they only used food waste and animal manure, and I'm going to be using human waste.
Jasmine, are you
So-
in contact with Tom and the other Robin, right? Because they would, I'm sure, be willing to support or provide.
Tom, Curtis, and Eli. Yeah, was that what you said?
Tom,
Yeah, that's Tom's thing, isn't it? Yeah.
it is Tom's thing, but Robin Barbado at the Cold Climate Research Lab at Corps of Engineers. She was part of the group originally, but she also, like, if you reached out to her and said that you were working on it, I'll put her in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great.
She does the same thing. She does that cold microbiological evaluation.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Here's her LinkedIn.
What other questions do people have about what's been happening out in the field? Thanks, Abri.
Well, it's not quite a question, but I visited my brother in the end of August, and I was hoping to also end up getting facultative lagoon sediments to put in a 100-gallon tub in my brother's back lot. They're down for that. It's still open invitation. I couldn't figure out somewhere, and I didn't think to ask about Talkeetna, but I'd asked Annie Corrigan at NREL Cold Climate Housing, places, and also Mike Ariel, because he's works with all the different groups around there working on wastewater things. So I was trying to find somewhere I could hopefully borrow a truck from my brother and go out and grab sediment samples. Missed my chance this time, but I will certainly be out there again next summer. So I hopefully with enough prep, I might have to drive out to Talkeetna, but I want to start getting more culture going for us, because the more seed you have, the better with these sorts of things.
I was about to say to you, some of the very interesting work that's been done here is the more variety of seed that you have, the better as well. So, like the bottom of the facultative anaerobic lagoons, or some cow poo from the bottom of a pit, or and then mixing those tends to give more robust things because you have enough for the selection. There's been some very interesting research done on that. So just as particularly if Jasmine is looking at things like that, it means you could have jollies around to lots of different places to look at different cold adapted communities.
Yeah, and bogs and fens too. Yeah.
Anybody else? Questions? Sources of microbes and poop mixtures?
I just wanted to say hi. I'm sorry I was late here this morning, but it is good to see you all. And I don't know exactly where we are, but was Margaret able to give I know that an update might have been on the agenda, so I wanted to make sure I didn't.
You saw pictures of moose and captive humans. Yeah, Margaret, do you want to just give an overview or see if Annie has anything to add in? We're talking about supply chain issues, pivots, using water with the systems now.
Which is actually great.
Okay.
I have to say. So Annie, like, you're just basically doing a clean water test, and it's better if something is wrong or something breaks or something fails, it's better to have it with water than with boot duty. So you're not, this is actually really happy coincidence.
Yeah, thanks for that encouragement. It definitely was a bummer decision, but I feel it's gonna set us up way better for the springtime.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna help a lot.
Are there any new update? When did the system get put in place, you guys? And is there anything new, Annie, that you want to report out or questions about, or you guys may be channeling all this anyways, but
I definitely, so it's, the water's being monitored for almost 3-4 weeks now. However, the power system hasn't been on, so there is like the passive solar inside and outside happening, but there isn't the heat drum, like the drum blanket heater, just because the way the electrical installation was delayed and the approvals for that. So we haven't really taken a look at the data besides after like the first few days and then the first week to make sure it was collecting in values we'd expect. So nothing more to report in terms of what is being collected. I don't know if Margaret mentioned, but we are planning to freeze one of the digesters with water. So we will have that test of the breaking. We'll only do that for one system so that we can keep the rest of our equipment happy before launch. Other than that, yeah, I imagine Margaret was able to capture most of it. I got some news today that the contracts for waste disposal, et cetera, are in place. So I think just making sure all of our, and I don't know if Margaret mentioned, but we contracted with a lab to do the biochem lab work for the sludge samples. So I think that's in place as well. So it's just been a process of making sure all of the details for once the experiment is up and running are also secure before we have poop on site that is doing its thing.
sounds great. Any questions for Annie?
When is the electrical likely to get completed?
I'd say turned on not this week, but next, based off that was mostly just became a staffing thing. Once it got delayed so far at the staffing, like you need electrical certifications to make final connections and get the approval of the wiring and everything. So that mostly became a staffing issue in the past few weeks. So I think that we'll get to the green light next week. But the wiring is all pretty complete. You know, the conduit's where it needs to be. There were a few. Yeah, we'll have a beautiful diagram that's easier to read than the one we've been working off with all of our edits in the next week as well, if anyone's interested in the power system.
Yeah, I think so. This group seems like just the sort of people who'd be interested in that.
Definitely.
It's an important part to think about for scale up, right? For sure.
Mm-hmm. And it was also part of the learning process. I had someone point out to me who he is from a village with this waste management problem. And he was like, if all this takes, if you're trying to send this small power system out to a village, now you know how hard it is to just set up something that's really simple. So there were definitely some learning components we're trying to keep track of when it comes to how complicated we get with what we might ultimately want. Maybe we find that this applied heat, we really want this much power, but then we'll have to consider the deployment side of things, given what the system needs.
So Annie, one thing that we were talking about before you got on was following up with the success of the pilot and lessons learned and funneling that into a larger NATO grant application. So I don't want to make your life more complicated, but I'm also wondering, like, the lessons learned that you're accumulating just from the development of the pilot, are those available for, like, could we use those to kind of build and structure some language for a new grant proposal? To, like, like, I think that what we're gonna say is we're gonna take whichever of these pilots is successful and scale it up to something larger and more robust that with Poopy. But addressing all of what you're learning is going to be a critical component of that. And so this is not for now, but I'm just for the long, for like the arc of the next 6 months. If you have, I don't, notes, post-it, stickies, something that says this really sucked, and we're gonna right, like, and maybe Margaret, you have that already just because you communicate with Annie a lot. But I'm just thinking, like, that would sort of bolster the proposal, and then also Annie, would you want to be part of that effort? And you don't have to answer that now. Just know that it's out there and that we're gonna probably start heading that way.
I think you should tell her the dollar amount that could lead to, so that we could then maybe get a little attention from NREL planning folks.
I mean, it says on the website 250,000 to 400,000 euros. Which, right now I don't know what that translates to. 350,000 minimum dollars, something like that.
So I can give you my first impression, which is I definitely have the lessons learned thing. It's scattered. it's maybe scattered in different areas, but I think I would be happy to work on compiling that. We're working with Margaret to come up with something that could either be used directly or at least guide you when you're like, we need a hole, like we have these holes, let's figure out what our lessons learned could contribute to a proposal. So yes, on that side of things. Interest level, yes. I think it would just be a matter of like understanding a little bit better on what role this pilot would play and what timeline everything would be on.
Yeah. Which is,
and
and I know that Margaret and I need to talk about that, and you're more than welcome to be part of those conversations as well. I'll forward you the invite, but because I just sent one to Margaret again. But I don't know what your bandwidth is at NREL, and what I don't want to ask you to do something beyond what your charge is. So that's all.
I appreciate that. I know that we are as a new center here in Fairbanks specifically, like our center within NREL is working on developing new capabilities. So this would be considered a new capability. So I think I could carve the support out if we have some direction. And you should send me a pin to where the new office is. I think this is a good time to start talking about it, because the end of the fiscal year sparks all sorts of conversations about what projects are getting off and projects are getting on, and what people are asking of you. So it's better to start talking sooner rather than later, even if the time horizon is like deep into a year from now.
Okay, great.
Okay. Yes. I know Alex is gone now, but I just looked at his chat and I'm really curious about what this bag digester weatherization is in Switzerland.
It's our picture. It's our IRPIC avatar. That's the bag digester. The giant, like the dune sandworm, right?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he said bag digester with a greenhouse. I was like, I feel like we have some folks who know a fair amount about that.
Yep.
Uh, um,
Okay, anything else with boots on the ground, future development? Sounds like we've covered lots of topics. Don't want to leave anything dangling or missed.
yeah, we don't, as far as I can tell, which isn't that easily because I'm screen sharing, but I don't know that we have any of the academic folks who might have hot research questions that they're exploring. But if I'm wrong and they're on, let me know.
Well, if I can give you sort of some of the stuff that's coming through,
Yeah.
some of them are like anaerobic fermentations. So we're seeing, because if you pitch something as just AD, at least now in this part of the world, you know, you don't get very far. And so I've had inquiries from like Africa and, you know, all over the place saying, you know, if we're looking for grant money, how do we make it sexy? So anaerobic fermentation is an interesting one because it's you know, you can do hydrogen at the first step. Some of the anything with hydrogen at the moment is very helpful. Some of the platform chemicals, we're seeing a few projects awarded on you know, creating a circular bioeconomy platform chemicals, either from regular things from AD, so it might be pyrolysis or gasification of digestates, and then even potentially use of, and then, you know, making syngas, but then use of some of that stuff in building materials, some of the residues in building materials as carbon capture, utilization, storage, because that's a lot of the again, the big you know, the big scale buzzwords. We had an unsuccessful project for to create from anaerobic type fermentations some kind of fungal material, which is really a difficult thing to do. But it was one of those academic things that somebody came up with in the hopes that some funder would think it was quite sexy. Yeah, so there's we've seen, you know, it's quite funny because I get a kind of a nice landscape view, and those are the sorts of things we've seen, at least on this side of the pond, from those sorts of things, as well as just smaller in the industry side, smaller scale off-grid biomethane upgrading and gas capture from large scale, you know, slurry lagoons. So there's sort of that really practical side as well as the really sort of low TRL side.
Not to overuse the phrase, but the circular economy of waste, right?
Yeah, it's basically, and sometimes waste. Sometimes they'll say, can we do platform chemicals from, you know, virgin biomaterials? So short, you know, willow coppice and those sorts of things, miscanthus.
Sure.
You know, just but generally renewable.
Thanks, Angie. I love hearing those things. I know that, and the question I've gotten the most, and that we have that little side, I don't know what will come of it, but a little side project from a small business innovation grant is about that small scale biomethane upgrading. And so everyone wants to know about using the gas. Like, isn't this supposed to be toward a circular economy? Aren't you supposed to do something with the gas? That's kind of, I think, the biggest question I've gotten so far. And so I could definitely use some schooling up on where the latest research on that is, like what it takes.
Yeah, there's some, just as a quick one, I don't want to take anybody down rabbit holes too much, but you know, there's many years ago, we did very simple biomethane upgrading at very small scale, just using like old fridges and media compressed in a pipe. So that you know isn't difficult. What's difficult is getting past anybody who's making any regulations on these things so that it can bounce out of the TRLs. And so what we're seeing is a company in the UK, which is sort of related to Fiat and Case New Holland, called Benjamin, are now just starting to productionize some very small scale things, which works really well with the solar and the batteries. So you can get some really exciting things going together by creating some small scale biomethane upgrading and then some electricity when the sun isn't shining and battery storage. So there's some interesting sort of energy juxtapositions there that you can put together.
Is there a link to that that you could put in the chat?
Yeah, I'll put a Benjamin link in the chat. They've got a pretty good website.
Also, you've used the word TRL, and I don't know what that is. Could you just let me know?
You know what? That's a really bad thing, isn't it? That it's the technology readiness level. So in this side of the pond, again, I have no idea what they do is those low 1, 2, 3 TRLs will be sort of just from proof of concept through to sort of lab scale, and then you get through to about TRL 7 and 8, which is, you know, early scale commercialization. So all of our research people will work on those sorts of things. Apologies for the jargon.
No, we use that distinction over here too.
Okay.
Yeah. TRLs that fall out of a TRA, right?
Okay, hey, thanks.
Cool. Cool. Annie, we also have, so one of the very first presentations that was ever given on the CHAD group was Lily's presentation about her agricultural bag digesters and how that gas was being used in like a hot plate in the Andes, I believe it was. And so the cleaning, quote unquote, of the gas for combustion in that hot plate was basically just a water scrubber in which was an inline vial of water that the gas passed through. And so there was Margaret, I don't know if I think we've pulled that. I mean, it was literally like the first or second meeting that we ever had where she was presenting that information, and she had a video of it. So in terms of small scale gas cleaning kind of applications, we can try to dig that video up. Or we could just email her and ask her to resend it, repost it, because it was not an elaborate kind of technology, right?
Yeah, but it's helpful to know you can start there. I think Jasmine was here, and Jasmine, did you have something similar to that? Maybe I'm confusing projects, but I thought that might have been something you tried.
I mean, Jasmine boiled an egg.
Exactly, yeah, that.
Yeah, I boiled an egg, a few of them, and actually right now the unit APU has started using it to cook hot chocolate and hot drinks for the high school youth out in Palmer, to get them involved in just the whole process, and it has been turning out really, really well.
Sweet, thanks. And do you have it, like, is it similarly just an inline water scrubber, like before they burn it?
I'm not too sure. I don't think so. Or maybe I'm confused by the question. Can you ask me again?
It sounds like what Embry just described was Lily's presentation said to get to the before the hot plate, they put the gas went through water.
Yeah, the gas passed through
clean
water to kind of knock some of the hydrogen sulfide.
Yeah, I know. We have there's a carbon filter on the system that the gas does go through, but that's it.
Okay, any other questions? About this, okay. I don't know how many other researchers are on. We're on the hot research questions people are investigating. Anything else people have? Because the first is ideas, opportunities for new collaboration and funding is item 2. So we can blend 2 and 4 together. Anything? Gone.
I have a question for Zender.
Simone, are you still on? Got a couple of.
Yes, I sure am.
Okay, there you go.
Were you on Karthik's NSF proposal?
Say that again.
You know, Jane Fowler was working with Karthik Chandran at Columbia University and on an anaerobic digestion NSF proposal. And they highlighted this group in that proposal. And I thought that you were called out specifically, that Zender Environmental was called out specifically. I didn't.
Yeah, we don't know about that. I'm not sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we're working with her on that. I'm not sure what that is.
I was just going to see if there's an update.
None for me on that. Sorry.
It's okay. Margaret, you wrote a letter, right?
I did. I haven't heard anything since. I was curious. I was hoping one of them would be on this column, give us a little update on that, but no. Yeah, I don't know what the NSF timeline is for responding to.
No, it's fall, but I didn't know if it was like after December 21st, before December 21st fall, or like seasonal maple leaves fall. I wasn't sure.
We could see if folks have topics or people they want to put on the spot for next month, for instance. We could reach out to them and say, can you talk in October about this?
Hmm.
We could ask the Talkeetna Lagoon folks what's up with them. There are lots of people I want to hear from, but I don't know what other people want to know more about.
Angie, would you present on small scale gas upgrading?
I know a little bit about it. If you wanted something like, I could, they're always horrifically busy, but I could try and nobble some of the Benjamin people. They're using membranes for upgrading. Funnily enough, I was just looking at a picture of mine on how we did small scale gas upgrading with water, with just the stuff you get in fish tanks, the little plastic doodahs. Yeah. And but that was many years ago. So yeah, I could do that, or I could nobble some Benjamin people to talk to you, because one of the things they're doing is they're not calling it AD, but they're calling it passive AD, insofar as they're just picking off the gas from these big lagoons. And there's still a lot of knowledge gaps in there because of temperature, because of lagoon shape, because you get heat losses, what kind of gas you get out of that, and so on.
Oh, that I think would be really salient for this group. If they want to, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know if
I could try and put the thumb screws on them if you,
20 minutes. I
yeah.
don't have to stay the whole 2 hours.
Yeah, ask them to do what?
it would be, let's see, let's look at the calendar.
Yes, the date, the October 16th, is that the right date?
16th.
Yeah.
October 16th, okay. Well, I'll ask the big cheese. I'll ask Chris Mann and I'll pull together some of the other people. I mean, the nice thing about that is they've got sort of biomethane tractors and stuff as well. And there's well, you can see some of the projects I put in them in the chat. So that might be of interest to people. I'll see if I can find somebody more sciencey on there, you know, in terms of understanding what kind of offtake they're getting.
Cool. I was trying to find a Wallace and Gromit cheese because cheese, my brain went to cheese, but I didn't find one fast enough.
Maybe this is a good time for a shameless plug from me. So I recently had a Mount Everest biogas project meeting. We're basically trying to breathe some life back into that post-pandemic. And what I'm working on with one of the people right now is making a job description, volunteer job description for basically an executive director and also social media coordinator, I guess is the title we're landing on. And so we're putting those together in this month. And then in October, I'm going to be reaching out to Architects Without Borders, Engineers Without Borders in Seattle, and maybe also some of the universities we've partnered with. But if you all know anybody you think would be interested in that, or if you want a second anaerobic digester volunteer project in your life, just let me know, and I'd love to pass it along and just cast a wide net. And you know, even if people don't specifically want to take on those roles, we're also looking for just people to be participants, board members, or you know, people trying to work on the project so that we can breathe a little more life into it than like the skeleton crew of 5 people that have been there since like 2009 or whatever. So anyway, just throwing that out there. Let me know if you have any interest in that, or you have friends that might.
Are those 2 job descriptions, the executive director and social media coordinator? Is that 1 position or 2?
Those would be 2 different positions.
Okay, all right, just checking.
Yeah.
So Nate,
social media coordinator.
I'm in a shameless plug for PNCWA. And you should, I can, if you send that to me, I can funnel it up through the YP committees, because I think that might be something that they would be interested in, or so yeah, just send that over and I'll send it over to the powers that be over at PNCWA, or I mean, you could do that too. I'm sure Corollo's got folks, but those guys that would be a good forum for soliciting that kind of.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely. I will certainly pass that along.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, Embry. No, you're a lot more connected than I think anyone I know at Corolla.
No, I think Cameron's got me beat, but I'm happy to help get that through. Yeah.
Hey, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you want to ping it, just you can CC me as well, because we do a newsletter, and if you're happy to, you know, if you're trying to get to people, we can we've got about, you know, a few thousand people on this newsletter list that do AD type things.
Thanks.
Any other new developments or shameless plugs? You don't have to meet the entire time. Or checked everything off of our list. Anything else, Embry and Margaret, that you want to cover that you've thought about during the meeting, or anything else on anybody's mind before we move towards closing out? I don't see any hands raised. Two screens of people. I'm still seeing half faces, but I think I could see a hand if it were raised. I don't know what is wrong with my screen today. All right, we've got some follow-up items. You guys have that written down, and you know who's the lead of where, and take care of those as we move forward. Our next meeting is October 16th. Obviously work, questions, work, coordination can be done between meetings. Highly encouraged. Good luck, Annie, babysitting. Hope the moose don't invade our system, but
They were back this morning, so
There's
Margaret
something about it they like, or maybe we invaded their field. I don't know.
well, maybe the whole wildlife interest will be an actual thing to plan for.
True. Let's see. That's
now,
what they're just interested, and they don't start kicking down building walls.
Yeah.
And if they poop,
Well,
Grab
I was gonna say something about that, but I wasn't sure that was appropriate. All right. Good luck. All right, everybody have a nice following month.
Thank
Hey,
you.
thanks. Talk to you
Transition to
soon.
October.
Great to see you.
Good to see you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.